Welcome back to Genesis Chronicles. We continue our Bible story series where we left off. Last time, we talked about the wonder of creation, witnessing God's power in bringing light, life, and order to the universe. Today, we dive into the next chapter, the story of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, where paradise turns into the first test of humanity's choices. Part 1. Imagine a garden. Not just any garden, but paradise itself. This was Eden, a place of unimaginable beauty. Crystal clear rivers flowed through lush meadows. Trees burst with colorful fruits, their sweet scents filling the air. Birds sang melodies that echoed through the vibrant landscape. In this paradise, God created Adam, the first man. Adam was strong and good, a reflection of his Creator. But God saw that Adam was alone. So he created Eve from Adam's rib, a companion to share in his joy and tend to the garden alongside him. Together, they lived in perfect harmony with nature and with God. Their days were filled with laughter, discovery, and the deep contentment of a life untouched by worry or pain. They were naked, yet felt no shame, for their hearts were pure. Part 2. In the heart of this paradise stood the tree of life, its branches heavy with fruit that promised eternal life. But nearby grew another tree, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. God, in his infinite wisdom, had given Adam and Eve a single, seemingly simple command. You may surely eat of every tree of the garden, but of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil you shall not eat, for in the day that you eat of it you shall surely die. This command was not a restriction out of cruelty, but an act of love. God, in his wisdom, knew that true freedom came from trusting in him, not from deciding for oneself what was right and wrong. He desired for Adam and Eve to live in the blissful innocence of their creation, free from the burden of knowledge that could lead them astray. Part 3. One day, as Eve strolled through the garden, she encountered a cunning serpent. The serpent, with smooth words and a sly demeanor, began to question God's command. Did God really say you could not eat from any tree in the garden? He hissed, his voice dripping with honeyed deceit. Eve, taken aback, responded, We may eat of the fruit of the trees in the garden, but God did say, You shall not eat of the fruit of the tree that is in the midst of the garden, neither shall you touch it, lest you die. The serpent chuckled, a sound that sent a shiver down Eve's spine. You will not surely die, he whispered conspiratorially. For God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. Doubt crept into Eve's heart. The serpent's words were tempting, promising a taste of the divine. She looked at the forbidden fruit, its vibrant colors now seeming to pulse with allure. The desire for knowledge, for the power to discern good and evil, began to outweigh her fear of God's command. Part 4. Eve, her resolve crumbling, reached out and plucked the fruit from the tree. It felt cool and smooth in her hand. She brought it to her nose, inhaling its intoxicating aroma. Then she took a bite. The taste was sweeter than anything she had ever known. Eve, her heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and fear, offered the fruit to Adam. He, seeing his beloved partaking and swayed by her conviction, also took a bite. In that moment, their eyes were opened. But instead of the enlightenment they had envisioned, a wave of shame washed over them. They became acutely aware of their nakedness, a vulnerability they had never before experienced. Part 5. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the garden, Adam and Eve heard the sound of God walking in the cool of the day. But this familiar sound, once a source of comfort and joy, now filled them with dread. They knew they had disobeyed. Fearful, they hid among the trees, their hearts pounding in their chests. "Adam, where are you?" God called out, his voice echoing through the garden. "Adam," his voice trembling responded, "I heard the sound of you in the garden, and I was afraid, because I was naked, and I hid myself." God, in his omniscience, already knew what had transpired. "Who told you that you were naked?" he asked, his voice filled with sorrow. "Have you eaten of the tree of which I commanded you not to eat?" Part 6. The Divine Decree. Adam and Eve, their guilt and shame overwhelming, could not hide their transgression. Adam blamed Eve, and Eve in turn blamed the serpent. God, though grieved by their disobedience, addressed each one in turn. To the serpent he declared, "Because you have done this, cursed are you above all livestock and above all beasts of the field. On your belly you shall go, and dust you shall eat all the days of your life." Then, turning to Eve, he said, "I will surely multiply your pain in childbearing. In pain you shall bring forth children. Your desire shall be contrary to your husband, but he shall rule over you." Finally, he addressed Adam, "Because you have listened to the voice of your wife, and have eaten of the tree of which I commanded you, you shall not eat of it. Cursed is the ground because of you. In pain you shall eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles it shall bring forth for you." Part 7. Cast out from paradise. The consequences of their disobedience were swift and severe. The harmony of Eden was shattered. No longer could Adam and Eve remain in the paradise God had created for them. With heavy hearts, they were cast out of the Garden of Eden, banished from the presence of God and the tree of life. The gates of paradise clanged shut behind them, a stark reminder of their transgression and the life they had forfeited. Before them lay a world they had never known, a world of toil and hardship, where they would face the consequences of their choices. Part 8. Clothed in mercy. Though banished from the garden, God did not abandon Adam and Eve entirely. In his infinite mercy, he provided them with garments of skin to clothe their nakedness, a physical representation of his enduring love and protection. This act of compassion, even in the face of their disobedience, highlighted the depth of God's love. He could have left them to their own devices, to face the harsh realities of the world unprotected and alone. But he chose to show mercy, to offer a glimmer of hope amidst the despair. Part 9. Echoes of Eden. The story of Adam and Eve is not just an ancient tale, but a timeless parable that continues to resonate with each generation. It speaks to the human condition, our capacity for both great love and devastating mistakes. It highlights the consequences of our choices, the weight of responsibility, and the enduring power of forgiveness. Though we may never experience the idyllic paradise of Eden, the echoes of that garden still linger in our hearts. We long for connection, for meaning, for a return to that state of innocence and grace. And while we may stumble and fall, like Adam and Eve, we can take comfort in knowing that God's love for us, like the gates of Eden, remains eternally open. Stay tuned for the next episode of Genesis Chronicles as we explore the legacy they left behind and continue our journey through the book of Genesis. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to join us for more of this timeless story.